And I am a material girl. I'm a material girl.
Hello. Okay, hi. Sorry, I'm late. I have something urgent. Yeah. Thanks for coming today to the talk. Apparently, I think there are a lot of people who wants to come, but because we are limited by the COVID of 50 people, so unfortunately, a lot of them are actually a lot of my clients are who wanted to attend this event of mine. Unfortunately, they have to go through. They have to do it through Zoom. So I appreciate those clients of mine who heard about this and wanted to come. But I think more important is uh, I was told by yesterday the community that they have to. A lot of people is asking, but they just have to close because there are not enough seats. And they didn't even, according to them, they didn't even advertise. They didn't even publicize. Usually, like the other events, they were actually publicized in SIDS to invite people to come, but very strange reason, mine wasn't publicized at all. So maybe because, yeah, so mine wasn't publicized at all, but they just told me that there are so many people is asking. So I just tell them, they wanted me to give a second talk of today, but I could not give a second talk. Reason is, yeah, I just want to give a simple talk. Yeah, so basically, I've seen some of people I know here. A lot of them are from the magazines. So the people from, of course, Space. I saw Chun Hong from Extra. My clients whose work will be also shown here. Some of them I cannot mention the name because these are all honestly it's my respect for them. They are people who are very very successful in life and for the last 15 years where I started, it has been a struggle until today. Today, I'm still working 7 days a week. A lot of people is asking what happened, did I lost weight or anything, but apparently I don't have time for meals. I work and it's just so much passion in all my work I've done. And very strange in this my life has been a history, has been like a storybook to me. I started honestly as a one-man show. I came back from London. I did not work for anybody. I started my own practice with just one person running my own studio, and it has been really, really tough for me. So the chronology that I want to mention is that I did my first project, and uh, I've I'm very, very lucky is because as soon as later you see one of my first project, it came out in Straits Times full page, and actually newspaper, some of them wanted to come, like Swan Chang, who wrote for me in Straits Times, Jeffrey Yu in Business Time, but apparently they are all stuck. They just send me notes to say, that they really wanted to attend my event, which I'm very, very happy as well. So I did my first project, my second project, it came out in the Chinese newspaper. And, it makes me happy. But at the end of the day, until today, to me, it's not about the celebrity homes that I do. It's not about the best home I do. It's about this relationship that I built in every of my clients, the kind of friendship that we have, the kind of sincerity. This was something that is extremely very difficult to me. So it's not about being, it's not important to become a designer, like become a celebrity designer. This is no meaning to me at all. It doesn't carry any weight at all. I think it's very important I be my humble self, just like how my clients are very, very successful today. I've seen they are so successful is because of their humbleness. And this is this makes me work even harder to strive where I have to go. And I'm not young anymore, to be honest. So I wish I would more longer time to do more good projects and to get very good projects. So back to the chronography. So when I went through my first stage um, of doing very, very good projects, the next thing is basically after doing very good projects, um, the stage is that I met a very serious car accident. So it was a very, very serious car accident. So if you look at my face, I mean, you can't see inside. They are all steel structure. I mean, they are all steel internal in my face. So I have one of my clients here who has also helped me. Yeah, she helped me, to go through to get the best doctors to help me, and there were 10 surgeons working. So I went into the hospital. I went to coma for a few weeks. I didn't. Uh, they told me I could not make it, and it was very, very sad because, uh, I started, as I mentioned, I started one man show, and then after that I met the car accident. I lost all my saving, but to me, it's not the money that matters to me, honestly. So after that, I climbed back very immediate because I have so much passion in my work. I love so much of what I'm doing, and I built this over the years, and I been through this second stage, and I start to see life in a very, very different way. After I met the car accident, I realized, why don't you just be back to yourself and be your normal self? Why do you have to go through being a celebrity and all this? And after that, the third part of my life was after the accident, I worked very hard. The third part of my life was I published my own monograph, which is my own book. And more importantly, the last part of my life was I got the President Design Award, the Designer of the Year. And it was honestly one of the toughest award that was given to me, So I won a lot of competition, but this was the toughest because it's not about doing beautiful projects. It's not about doing homes that were nice. It's not about, I could remember the juries were saying, we know what you're doing. If we look at your work, we see you in magazines, we see you everywhere, but they asked me one word, where is the identity? Where is the identity of your work? And where is the Singapore identity, which I could not answer for the first time in my life. And I think that is very, very important. Every time we do a project, it's actually from our heart. We do it with so much passion. We do it with love. We do it understanding the needs of the client. We listen to the client. And this is very, very important because we build this relationship together. And this is how I went through. And after I did my, after I met my, after I after I won the president, it backs to normal, back to square one again. So I started. I wasn't proud. I wasn't, like being, like someone who won an award. I wasn't that. I was back to my very, very self. Was I start to design, which later you will see some of my work that I do pro bono. That means I do charity work. And I think this is more meaningful because I'm giving good design to people who are more unfortunate rather than celebrities. These are not that meaningful to me in a certain way. So I back to my square one where I start to do design. So it's almost like a complete cycle in a way. So this complete cycle was something that, and that's why I can tell you I still work 7 days because I'm back to square one and I just want to do good projects. And I'm very, very thankful for the last COVID situation. I have a lot of very good projects, very strange. I have a lot of developers who look for me, who ask me to pitch for projects. And recently, for the last 1 year, I thank God that I have done a lot of show flats, So the more recent show flats that I've complete, basically, if she's probably not here, but I do a lot for Guaco Land, so I'm doing the Midtown along the whole stretch. I have, I'm sure some of you are here from South Beach residents. I'm doing show flats for them, the penthouses, and then yesterday I met the other client who I'm doing his house. He owns Concourse, Darren Chong, anyway, the whole stretch is basically all my clients in the whole stretch of the of Beach Road. So I'm very, very thankful, and I have other developers here who are also here. Uh, um, I have other developers here to also give me their blessing. Yeah. So anyway, uh, I'm very, very thankful that, what I have today is not me alone, it's the support given by my clients who believe in me. I could remember when I first launched my first monograph, I only invited 200 guests, and there were like 300 people were all wanting to come to here. And they were all waiting outside, they were sitting outside. So that pleases me, not because of where I am, but it's the kind of respect that my client has given where I'm just nobody at all. And I'm very, very thankful, honestly. So given this great opportunity. So back to, so being the President Design Award was, I think I have to, this is the second time I'm in this auditorium. The first time was to, to get the award. But I went through this whole process where it taught me about very, very important. It's about giving back to the society. It's all about, giving your heart and, to create an identity that makes one, be proud of that you are Singaporean and you are doing good design, but you are doing design for people in this in, who are living in Singapore, and to the less fortunate people. I think that's more concern for me. Okay. So basically, when I was asked to, I know when during this SIDFest, so if you notice, you see the exhibition. So my exhibition was very, very simple. My exhibition, if I were just to explain my exhibition, so my exhibition was just I start first, yeah. So okay, so okay, I started first before I show the video, but I think it's going to be a slightly a longer talk. But very important is I see this as a beautiful house. I think a house for me, that's why if you look at the exhibition below, sorry, I'm a little bit different from the rest of our exhibitors. I do not need to exhibit, the rest of our exhibitors are actually exhibiting the kind of products which is good, so you have good brands like Constantino, you have brands, like, solid surface coming in. You have very, very good brands coming in. But for me, it's more about speaking of myself, Peter Tay, who I am, and why I asked Space to actually come in a way is because my very, very first project, I started off using Space furniture, using this brand called B&B Italian. So I have a very strong relationship with Space, and so in a very, very strange way, in this whole lifetime of this 15 years, I don't only use Space, I use furniture from Chun Hong, from Extra, and very strange, these are all my clientele, these are all my friends, but they were not competitor in a way. And that was so beautiful in a way for me, because when they look for me to design, like for example, when I designed the Armani Casa shop, when I designed the Louis Vuitton shop, it becomes very beautiful because they were all, in a very strange way, in my opinion, they are like competitors, but yet they are open for me, Peter Tay, to design the space. And I felt that openness was beautiful. It was a hard, this was about, they have the intention to do good design. It's not about competition, it's about pushing the market. It's about putting good design furniture in Singapore itself so that it becomes almost like a second Milan fair. So for me, when I designed, I decided, Space, I talked to Space, and because I helped Space the last time when I designed the Polyform showroom, and also last year was to do the Max Salto show, the Max Salto in Bencoolen Street, and a Space by appointment. So it becomes very meaningful in every of my clients. So I talk to them and they are very, very happy to speak this language that is hidden inside me, that I want to tell them how furniture is very, very important in a space. It's part of my design, not just the scheme, not the spatial quality. So if you look at this, when I designed the space, the exhibition below, it was just a very, very simple house. It's exactly the house that you see in this image. If you look at this house by Herzog Moron, it's actually a very, very simple house, but a house that you go in, it's just simple. And I think design is all about that. Design is about not going into a space where it's overly decorative. It's all about what a house to you. It just act as a shelter for you. It just as simple as possible. It brings back memory of the space. So if you look at my exhibition, it looks similar like a house where it houses not only the inhabitants, but it houses the furniture. That's why if you look below, behind you see the five space iconic pieces. These pieces are pieces that you find in a house, as simple as that. So I designed a house that is very, very quiet. But when you look into the house, you will see my work, which is me being the inhabitant of the house that wants to speak what I want to tell. So that's why if you see the idea of the reflection in the book, the exhibition, you see the reflection is because in all my works, all the developers know, in all my works, I have reflection, and that is my identity. I do not do reflection because it's a gimmicky. I do reflection is because number one, it reflects and give the duality of the space. It brings external into inside. It makes the space. I see my work like an artist that transforms the space, not through decoration, but by changing this spatial quality that I'm interested in. Why must a place be a 4 by 4 meter by 3 meter height? Why can't you walk into the space? It looks like a 4 by 8 by 6 meter height. And this change of typology of an interior space becomes very powerful for me. Just using the idea of a mirror. So the mirror is not a gimmick. So if you look at mirrors like from the artwork like Yayoi Kusama and all these, but it reflects on really the characteristic or the identity of the owner living the space. So if you look at the work of Bansi, you look at the work of Damien Hirst, you know this is the artist. So somehow I wanted to create this. That's why you can see the reflection of looking at the view, but it's also reflecting on my work to give the double volume space. So this is basically the house that I'm very, very interested in, because it wasn't a house that based on architecture language. I'm not interested, but it was basically a very, very bare space. So if you look at the work of Aldo Luz, Aldo Luz's work is actually one of our Aldo Luz's work is, he always mentioned, ornamentation is a crime. For him, interior space is about spatial quality. It's about form. Where walls are actually like internally are stages that you walk through. Is like walking into a stages, not necessarily seeing decorative space, but when you walk through the space, you sense the space, you feel the space, you feel the height, you feel the tightness, you feel the volume, you hear the sound of your own feet walking in the space, the sound that's echo within the narrow space. And these are very beautiful things. You do not need an interior design, really. So sometimes even got clients who come to me, if I think their space is so nice, I will just tell them, you don't need an interior designer, to be very honest. You get an interior designer, you somehow destroy the space. We, as a designer, we need to create space. And this spatial quality is something that is extremely beautiful because it relates to somehow the form and the volume which you see in Aldo Luz's work. And this is basically one of the work by Herzog Moron in Vitra Museum, where it's also housing the furniture. So it's all about stacking of the boxes. But for me, mine was a very, very simple house that speaks of my work together with the relationship with space furniture. And very important, Mies Bandero Farmworth House, which is a glass house where you can see through. Okay, I probably have to go a bit faster to show my work. So if you look at Mies Bandero, it's about there's no boundary of wall. It's about inside and outside. It's about transparency. And a lot of my space is that you look at a lot of my design, spatial quality is done through transparency, is done through nothing but blockage. And my design is using mirror to create all this effect in a way which later you will see in my work. So this is one of Lecoup's work. Okay, so basically very quickly, for me, very, very interesting is, if you look at it, it's a very not beautiful architecture, but it's one of the best modern architect in the world now until today. But if you look at the interior that he created, the kind of volume, the kind of light that lights up the space, the color light, and these are very important. And that's why you have artists like James Turrell coming into the space to actually design the space. So you have artwork within the space and creating, and it houses the church. And very important, it houses, in this chapel, it houses Jesus Christ. I mean, this is very important because it houses the content of the owner who is living in the space. So when we design any space, whether it's a commercial space or interior space, commercial space, we need to know the identity of the product, which I will explain later, and of course in house space. And I managed to exhibit in Venice Biennale, where it's a time space existence. And it was a very, very interesting exhibition because I need to submit my entry to at time at that year 2014, but was Rem Koolhaas. But basically he needs to see what you're trying to do. And immediately when I sent in, immediately he replied and say yes. And I also met Rem in Venice as well because Rem Koolhaas OMA, he basically he's also from the ETA in London. Yeah, so that's where we study, and of course he's a more senior. Yeah, so this was basically the exhibition that I was having. So what you can see is inside this exhibition is very interesting. What I did was, it's a very tight space, but I created a glass box where the inside, if you look at it, if you look inside the house, I make people, when people look inside the house, of course they see furniture, but when I look inside of this glass box, I'm looking into a landscape. So I try to blur the boundary between what is outside and inside spaces. So if you look at the garden space, so that's why if you look at my exhibition booth, it's very straightforward. It's just a house from far apart when you enter, and when you go in, you start to see, oh, that's Peter Tay, he's the owner, and space is the wife or husband and wife, and they are living in this space, and they're telling the story of the last, for me, 15 years, for space, the many years that they have brought this brand up together. So the whole thing is very simple. If you look at this box, it's about this inside. And what you can do is, you see, I have to construct this design. I walk and I have images that reflects the whole space. So this idea tells a story when you are in this tight space. The whole story of my work has been folded, reflected, unfold, and you can see the relationship of my work where the interior and external has been also physically shown in this box within a box concept. And this was what I basically do. So you can see how I created this duality space in Venice, right? Sorry, this is the President Design Award. Okay, so anyway, this was one of the house project I did. It's actually at Mount Echo Park. So it's actually very interesting if you can see the idea of the reflection that I do. So you can see the reflection that was created not just on the floor, but also on the ceiling, that it reflects the ceiling up, so that when you walk into this portal, you do not know where are the ceiling and where's the floor, but you see how the landscape from the outside has been brought into the inside space because of the reflection. And this is like looking into a camera box or looking in the box, and you see, like when you are young, you look inside, you see, a story of a whole puppy dog that was playing, or the whole village that's inside the box. And this was exactly what I want to capture. So I wanted same thing. If you look at the exhibition, is when you look at it, it's about looking at this, and when you walk off the back of the house, these are windows, and the windows is to tell them the furniture is almost like a postcard of images that was trying to tell the story. So if you look at the space, the idea of the reflection within the space, these are a lot of my projects which has to do with reflection, a show flag where the reflection, multiple reflection, so you could see that the landscape has been brought in. So portfolio also has featured this work of mine. Marco is also here. So you see the reflection. So you can see the reflection of the landscape in the center. You see the reflection not only on the left, but also on the right, but also on the top. So it becomes like framing of a landscape within an external space, right? So this is actually another project, which is a very, okay, sorry, this is South Beach, where the idea is a reflection as well, but that's the fireworks. So you can see on the ceiling, more important, you can see the way the reflection is. Actually, there's a cross beam there, but how I managed to break the ceiling by creating, looking up the ceiling and then seeing the down spaces. So you could actually see how you capture when you enter the space. Okay, very quickly. This is a Nobel 18. So at present, in Novell 18, I've done, I mean, at present, I've done two penthouses. One penthouse is show flat, and then bring another penthouse. And this is a 5-bedroom suite. So this is also very interesting because in the whole volume here, what you see is actually reflective steel within the space. But sorry, yeah. So you can see the reflection of the steel within the space. So on the right side, the top, you can see this reflection creates this very strange multiplicity that I was looking at. And design of interior space has to have this what I call layering, has to have this multiplicity, but has what I call the depth that you feel like walking into the space or linger in the space that holds you in the space much longer. And this is exactly what I have my whole intention. So you can see not only I have the ceiling that is reflected on the top where you can see the reflection reflect the wall. So the whole idea is that the wall becomes, it becomes turned up and you do not see the breaking of the lights, and you have the onyx. So it becomes visually when you look up, it looks like not looking at the well, but looking outwards to see the sky, but the sky has a new kind of language that I was trying to project. So it's all about drawing your vision, not only the best view, but looking up and enjoying the view. All right, so this is exactly how it looks like. You can see the reflection from the very photo. This is one of my clients also here, Vizuk. So I managed to win. I teach for this and I managed to win. And I'm very, this is Vizuk. So you can see how the idea of the reflection, this is Tippling Club. So you can see how I bring Scott Square. The view has been reflected up. Of course, on pedal is below and across you have Paradise. I think my client is also here from Paradise. So I'm doing his house. So anyway, you can see the idea of the reflection within the space. You can see Scott Square becomes very, very exciting because from young, I felt the road of Scott Square was one of the nicest thoroughfare that was very interesting for me, the way the road. So I managed to capture those views into the inside space. So if you can look at the dining top, the marble is also very interesting. So I'm very, very lucky because at this moment, basically, I'm all the Vizuk in China. I'm basically doing all the Vizuk in China. So Vizuk in China, China is so big, so I have to do like probably 3 shops in Beijing, not just one shop, and in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Chongqing. Very strange because China have very good designers, and anyway, they love my design and they ask me to keep on doing, even I cannot fly there. But what we do is I have a very good team who produce the drawing. She will send all the drawings across and she will coordinate for me all this, right? Yeah, so you can see the idea of the reflection and it's almost a very different dining experience, not over the counter, but over sitting and seeing the view on the outside. So this is basically inside the showroom. Yeah, so you can see the showroom. And this is this is just now the bungalow house in Mount Echo Park. Sorry, yeah. And this is also for another developer. This is at Rive, the former Zouk site. So we have the 4-bedroom and the 3-bedroom. So it was a very nice project together. Yeah, it was interesting with the light coming in to the space. All right, okay. Since this is another house I'm doing now in Bali, where if you notice, it's also about reflection, not just the external, but you can see how the way the volume is and the pool on the top. And this is actually at at Jimbaran Bay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So quickly, just so this is basically the idea. So I'll just quickly show you my concept in a way. Okay. Because for me, this is an architect who I've never known in any magazine or I've never known. I only heard him. I just flipped the magazine once and I saw his work. And it's very important to me because it does not shows me, this work does not show where is the inside and where's the outside. It's about the reflection, which is also in a lot of my work, how the green is reflected, how the water reflects the space, how light allows to pour in and becomes very, very powerful to me because it becomes almost like an artist's work, like a Mondrian. So every time when I approach a work or whenever I talk about a work, I love to see myself as an artist. I love the work of an artist looking into spaces. So if you look at the work about light coming into the space, about the marble, it's all about the light filtering in the space. cutting openings in the roof for allowing light to reflect on the water. A little bit like Philip Johnson farmhouse, the concept. So it's about framing very quickly and about the body that it creates. So to me, it's also boils down to Aldo Lu's work. This is one of Aldo Lu's work where it's very interesting. It's a whole place, but it allows very strange. It's like you can have a fair one week, next week you can have a supermarket, next week you can have theater, and it becomes a very exciting space. That means a building that can accommodate different typology. And this is how I approach interior design as well. It is about a client who can use the space, not necessarily as a living space, but could use as a space for entertainment, but a personal space or space where they can start doing drawing or space that belongs to them. And this changing typology within the framework is extremely important at this moment, especially in COVID. So this was basically in when I bring my team to Japan. It was a very long journey because we went to Tokyo, and from Tokyo we took a train and we take a boat to this island called Tashima. And it's a very, very beautiful space. Just to explain how, so in Tashima, I just explained is that very nice is that inside this space, if you look at the base, you can see there are water spouts coming in. So when I went there, we have to take off our shoes. Nice thing about this is that the floor becomes the wall, becomes the ceiling, only using one material. And design is about that. Design is about that simplicity that a lot of designers fear to, sorry, I cannot say a lot of designers fear, but I think it's the simplicity that we as a designer, we should sought after. Because when I was doing this house, I did a house in Singapore with the architect who did the National Gallery, Studio Milo, right? So if you look at the National Gallery, it's actually very, very simple. So I did the house. My client looked for him as the architect after many selection and looked for me as the ID. But what was very nice is that when I talked to François from Studio Milo, is that the interior cannot have any paneling. We need to keep it as plain as possible. So very, very important design for me until today is interior must respect architecture. Architecture must respect exterior space, landscape. So this type of opening the heart and giving to them is the best. I cannot come and say, I did this interior and my interior design is the best. You start to realize that there are someone who is even, you need to respect people who are, you should be just not proud. As I say, the humbleness is very important, but you allow your work to let the architect has credit. The architect has to let the landscape have the credit. And that's the most beautiful part in design. It's not about trying to claim I'm the best designer. To me, that's not important at all. So when you go this, it's very nice because when I took out you can see the water coming out. It's by artists. So you hear the echo of the water within the space. But what I can never forget was, because this was on the mountain top, there were all trees around and you have this architecture. I could remember there were birds flying past and I could hear the echo of the birds inside this volume. And that was the most beautiful thing that I ever experienced because it was an architecture that captures sound, and sound is design. And I just could not, I hear the water coming out, flowing to one side because of the uneven floor. I hear the birds singing, capturing. It was a total universe for me within a very clean, defined, sensitive space. And this sensitiveness was beautiful. And that's why in a lot of my projects, I do it very sensitively. I listen to the client, I hear what the client needs and I try to see what are things that the client loves and how I'm trying to bring this sensitiveness and capture within his liking. So he will love the space that he lives in, right? So these are the work. This is the Mies Bandero Barcelona Pavilion where you do not know where's the inside and outside. Yeah, so you can see it's a very interesting space. And this is one of my favorite artist's work, which is Richard Serra artwork. So it's a bit like a still sculpture. So later I'll show you a picture, or I didn't copy the picture because the latest polyform table has this leg which is exactly like that. And I recently just proposed to a client. I felt this was a very, very beautiful because a table with this leg becomes almost like a piece of art. So it's a little bit like the work of Rick Owens and things like that. So you can hear it's about in a gallery how steel sculpture sculpts the space, but create this echo or create this sound by using a very cheap material. And this sensitiveness I have learned through my journey for the last 15 years. I learned everything. I met a car accident. I learned everything. I learned from my client. Until today, I'm still learning and I'm seeing things and discovering things. So this is the work of Sejima. Okay, very quickly, it's about light coming in the space. So I just quickly show some of my work. So I don't know, one of my clients should be here also. I invited him because I told him his work. So this is actually a house where you can see that the house actually reflects on the water. So what was exciting was this picture, if you look at this picture. So I remember one day I do not know why I went to his house at 8 o'clock in the night, but it was very, I think maybe, I can't remember what was it. But then when I was standing on the garden, it's very strange. I remember there was couples who are carrying their dogs for a walk along this street, on this road, which is Goodman Road. They were stopped in front of the house and just look like that. Even I'm standing there, they were just looking. And they were standing there for 5 minutes talking to each other and looking. And every car then when I was standing there, the car that stopped, they will stop the car and they will look inside the space and then they will drive off. But it becomes very, very important to me because I'm able to do a design. Luckily, I'm able to do a design that managed to freeze the movement of people for that few minutes. And this made me very, very happy. Because if I cannot stop people from looking into the space, then my design is nothing special. So what I did was basically, I thought that was the best. So when I look at it, it was like on the roof, this is actually the roof canopy, but I do a polished stainless steel, and the steel actually captures the inside of the space, which is the living space. And in living space, you also have another reflective ceiling because you will have a courtyard in the center with a green. It will also reflect the green. So the reflection becomes multiplied in a way. It multiplies, not because it's nice, but it multiplies and show the layering that I was interested. What is the next space? What do you want to see in the next space? You discover, and you discover. And this discovering is a very interesting journey for me. So you can see how the reflection from the living, it goes from the outside, which is the external, it going to the interior, and the courtyard is actually in the center, and the dinings are steps that goes up. So it's almost like the idea of stage, the idea of theatrical space and stage in a way. So if you can see the reflection, it not only reflect the inside, but it reflect the reflecting pool that was on the downstairs. So when you look at the reflecting pool, you will see the top part also being reflected. You see the external being reflected. So this multiple reflection becomes extremely important. So you can see how the reflection works within the space. This is actually the living, looking at the tree, which is the courtyard, and the dining at the back. So you can see from the dining, you can see the layering, the way the step down, the different level that was created within the space. And using a very, very cheap material on the edge, which is a perforated sheet, it's about light filtering through the space, but it's all about this translucency, the layering, the light that I was really talking about. This was one of the projects I did in Hong Kong. It's at Pacific Place 3. Yeah, and this was basically very strange. It was an office. It used to be the former Tod's office. The brand Tod's brand, the shoes Tod's brand. So my client, I'm not sure they are here, but basically it's very interesting. This is actually an office, but inside the office, I have a center stage where they're going to exhibit, where the fashion designer is doing clothes. This design is actually Christian Dada. That's why you have the Christian Dada shop in Orchard, remember, but now of course it's closed. You have the Christian Dada then the Surrender and the Off-White. So it belongs to the same owner. So Christian Dada was interesting because in Hong Kong, he wants to exhibit his product. So this becomes like a fashion stage. So if you look at the design, this is how I designed the space. So you will see exposed trunking on the walls that were cement scraped. It's all about framing. And if you look at the back, it's actually a mirror. The mirror is all slanted at the edge. So you have this multiple reflection, but it heightens this idea of what fashion is all about. It heightens the idea of clothing, and I doing it within a very raw, and it's very strange. The outside is just plaster ceiling because it's a program within a program. And very seldom you see a shop that has a program within a program. I mean, it's not just a cafe within a shop, but this is very different. This is one is an office space, which is on the outside, and inside is a stage. And this becomes an extremely tension, a very interesting tension that I was trying to strive for. So this is exactly how, and this office is, you can see the office, it's actually Richard Mille office. I mean, it's a watch office because basically I do all the Richard Mille office in Asia, including the last one was in Taipei, and then Shanghai, Beijing. This one is in Hong Kong. So you can see it's very interesting. That's a reception counter, but when you come in, you will see Christian Dada in the center where ceiling is a little bit raw. So you have plaster and rawness within the space, right? So you can see this is how the effect it looks like, yeah. And you can see how the way the mirror has been bent, the way the lighting is within the space, the way how the hanging is, the kind of detailing that I was going for. Yeah, so that's the Richard. So this was basically, I done a lot of penthouses in Singapore. I mean, basically, so many, a lot of penthouse. So I've done 2 penthouses in St. Regis, one in Urban Suite, one in Richmond Park, one in Beverly Hills, one in Marina Bay Suites, one in the Sale. So I've done almost all the penthouses in Singapore are a bit all like my basically all my projects in a way. So this is in Sentosa oceanfront. So I've done very strange. This is the oceanfront that have 5 penthouses, and 4 penthouses are all my project, except 1 penthouses I didn't do. But I know you all know who this penthouse is. It belongs to the church, the Hong Hee one. Yeah, but that one I didn't do. But the rest of the penthouses are all different kind, but all I did. Yeah. So what you can see is very interesting. You can see this is the swimming pool, but it captures the Sentosa within the space. So what you can see, I create a staircase that goes up to the rooftop, but you can see the reflection of the marina one within the space. So what you can see is you will see basically the reflection within the space. So it's not just about the fact that you're in Sentosa, you're on the rooftop, but you also reflect on the light on the sky that comes in the space. So it's almost like living. So I remember the client told me, he was recently in newspaper as well. Sorry, I cannot say who he is. He also told me that every night for 5 minutes, he will just sit down with his wife just to look at this high gloss black ceiling and stare at the black ceiling for 5 minutes. And I do not know why they stare at the ceiling for 5 minutes, but they told me it was beautiful. It was peaceful. They could not explain what is so nice about it, but I know what they're looking at. And it makes me happy because if I can freeze a person who is walking outside a house for 5 minutes, and I can freeze the client who's sitting on his sofa and looking at my feature for 5 minutes, I think I've done something good for the interior, for the space. Yeah, so this is exactly how it looks. Okay, sorry, I go to Venice. So this is Venice. So you will see Chun Hong is also inside the space. My good friend, the photographer who has been shooting all my photos, is my good friend, and we all enjoying the space, right? Yeah. So I go to the next one is basically, this is the, okay, so how I see is basically how lights come into the space, how it create the reflection. So I was given a job to do an apartment, and this is at nearby, the apartment is, where's this? This is near River Valley, somewhere near Martin Modern, so I've done also Martin Modern as well. Yeah, but anyway, this idea was very interesting. So if you can see how I use polished stainless steel, but very important is that you can see how I create this volume. It's actually a white space, how the existing beam I create within the space, and you can see how the ceiling with the reflection for the space, and from outside, it looks like walking the stage, the water feature, and you can see how the staircase that goes up is being reflected like a mirror so that it becomes almost like a piece of art. So I see the staircase not as an object that brings you to a next space, but I see the staircase as an art that has been hanging on the wall. And this was all I cared, you know. And you can see the work, if you go in the space, it's very nice because the shape of this staircase has been reflected upwards, so it becomes wiping up. So it becomes like another V shape within the space. So this is how I do for the space and the volume. This is where you can see how you look down the space. You can see this, the multiple space that has been created in a way, right? Yeah, so this is in the night looking, sorry, then we go. Okay, very good. Okay, so this is also another house that I've done where it was completed, yeah, some not too long, I mean, 1-2 years ago. Yeah, so it's really about, very interesting. It's about basement. This is the way the lights are being thrown, but also the wine cellar, where you walk up, this is actually a wine cellar below. So if you walk up, it becomes very strange. It becomes a very interesting transition that I'm going through. It's about when I walk through the spaces, left and right, our wine cellar, walking down from the tunnel, and within the space, this is the corridor space. This is how the external space look like. So you can see how the volume of the inside and outside has been blurred in a way. Right? Yeah. Okay. Then so these are the work, some of the commercial project that I've done. I mean, that is actually Fendi in Milan. Okay, it's very interesting because for me, I see fashion, I see art, they're high. So for me, it's all about how you can freeze this moment. When you freeze this moment, you allow people to stay in a home. I think that is the most beautiful part of a project, right? So very quickly, so I've done restaurants as well. So this is another Meta restaurant. Meta is at Kyongsek Street. So this is the Korean chef. Yeah, but you can see it's a very narrow space. But when you walk in, this is actually the space that you see for the space. So this is a surrender store in Orchard, where this was my earlier proposal to them. So if you see surrender store, it was used very raw cotton steel within the space, cage within the space. This is Martin 38. It's actually a penthouse, but it's also one of my most favorite projects. So my client, I did the show clap, but my client bought it as well. So it's very important because it's not just about the view on the outside, but you can see basically the polyform, which spaces people are here. So later I'll show you the slide where you will see the space furniture within the space. So all these, including the beds, were all from space that I brought into the space. So Chicote within the space. And this is the Max Auto showroom at space. So what I did was the last time when they wanted to do this, I remember I told Tina, she was in charge of the Australia space as well as Singapore space. I told her it's very, very important that we do not go to a furniture shop just to see furniture like a furniture showroom. I say important is to have this transition of space. So you walk into the living, you go into the dining space, you go into the dry kitchen area, you go into kitchen, bedrooms. You need to make this almost like a home. So when I designed, I did this layout in the space. I did it almost like a setting. That's why you can see the setting is like a dining. You can see how the story starts to unfold. It's like as though you're walking in to the house and looking to see the screen through the layering within the space. So we did the styling as well, including the so you can see all these accessories that we have placed in for the space. Yeah, so this is very quickly the Salto. I did not put in the space by appointment showroom because now it has become the Art Edra. So what you can see is this, and this is, sorry, I should not be showing this, but I have to very quickly. This is the super penthouse by Dyson. I cannot show this actually, sorry. Yeah, I have to click. Okay. Yeah, okay. And that's Wang Li Hong one, his office, which I just finished. I finished Wang Li Hong office just before the COVID closed. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And the last thing is what I'm going to show. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So let's go back again. So Wang Li Hong, and I'm very happy because I'm sorry, I've always said president, but I'm very happy that I think there are people from PIC is here. I was featured in the PIC, the Singapore Tatler portfolio. Now I only hope to be featured in one of my client Prestige magazine. I think she's here as well. Yeah. So yeah, that's all the project. And this is actually which I'll show you in the video. So now I'll just quickly show you the video of my work, where more important is to show how space furniture has been used for my very first project coming into that space.
We are trying to fix some technical error over here. So maybe we'll proceed with some Q&A if you have any. Then maybe Peter can help to address if you have any question. So if you have any question, you can just raise your hand and let me know. I'll pass you the mic.
Okay, then play the music. 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 Okay, here. Okay, so I won't talk, but just see the work. So this was my first project when I first started, without working. So this was the architecture I do. So you can see the furniture, I think very important for space. This is the B&B pieces that my first project that I used. So it's a child sofa, which is a classic piece that is last until today. This is also a child sofa. I took this project without furniture, but it's just to show you the quality of light coming into the space, how I frame the landscape. So it's all about framing of the landscape. It's about the frame, how I bring the landscape, the water into the space. So to me, it's about the window proportion, how it relates to the grid. I think that's important because the architecture was created not because it was beautiful, but it relates to the outside spaces. This one belongs to Da Vinci owner, yeah. furniture is also from B&B. They are all from B&B Italia. They are all the classic pieces. Yeah. Sorry, I cannot disclose who the client is. This is one of the biggest area in Lucky Height occupied. So it's fifth generation. So it's how I bring the external, I design the external landscape as well. So this is coming out from the bedroom, you see the reflection. That's the B&B, the Charles, the floors lighting. This one, I also cannot disclose, but this is the first, the Ray sofa. That time they have not, nobody in Singapore has, so the Ray sofa first go through space and we came into here. It's about the light coming into the space. This was one of the competition that I won gold as well. The architect is Tay Jun Heng, so artichoke man. So to me, design is about this sensitiveness. It's about the kids enjoying the space. It's about the person living the space. So this was a house where until today, the house after 8 years is still look as clean as exactly the interior is like that. Almost, I met the client, he told me his place is exactly like a museum to him. Yeah. So you see polyform kitchen and all this within the design. That's the Botero sculpture. So this was also featured in Tabler magazine, but very interesting is because you have seen, this is my signature ceiling. So very interesting is that you can see how the pool and the landscape has been brought into the space. So you can see the kind of layering that was inside in the space. Yeah. So the good thing was I worked with polyform because I told them Asian cooking is actually important. So you see the combination of my table with polyform kitchen together. So this is, the time was structural white marble for the space. So allowing the skylight to come in from the top. Yeah. So this was also another gold award. I won this project as well. Yeah. But you can see the inside. These are also all the designers. That's last time the furniture moe is also from space. So and you can see the vertical connection up to the sky. So the architecture was interesting. It's not just horizontal, but a vertical connection. So when I designed the architecture of the house and the interior, it's basically you see swimming pool, living space, reflecting pool, and the dining. So you see 3 levels of reflection within the space, but you can see the structural white marble that only also fall in the kitchen. So the whole floor is without carpet, so the marble becomes almost like a piece of art. Walking into the space, you will see the spiral staircase. Your main door, you will see this spiral staircase as a piece of art. This wood is actually 4 meters, but I curved the wood, so it becomes almost like a curved wood within the space here. And I designed a staircase that leads up to a volume above the kitchen. above the dry kitchen. Yeah. So I create a room above the space. So this was another client. He is a collector of art. So that this artwork is 3 in the world only. Yeah. So his houses are in Monte Carlo. He's not a local. But what I did was, if you can notice, there's a B&B as well. The art series, which just now you saw below. This is actually steel that reflects the room. Yeah. So in Shanghai, I've done a lot in this apartment, but I think it's one of the best view that I ever seen. So this is the Huangpu River. So at that time when I go, so I quite often go Shanghai. So the space was all bare, and we'll construct all this, we make all this. So the marble, everything was bare. So we select the material and everything. So we use all the B&B pieces within the space. Yeah. So at that time, the show flat designer that I do is only for SC Global, and mainly SC Global and HBR. But now I'm very thankful I met so many other developers here. Yeah. So this design was also B&B, but the furniture were low. So it's a bit very Manhattan, so it's almost like living on High Line in New York, Mid-Packer in London, yeah. And after that, I did for HPL, actually Robertson Blue in Singapore, and the Met in Bangkok. So architect is actually Woha and landscape Chikada. So you use Jim Thompson fabric, the B&B pieces, we actually combine the Minotaur rug within the space, yeah. So I use the Christian Liao furniture because at that time they have the Christian Liao there. So of course I love modern classic pieces. That's why the exhibition, the pieces selected were all modern classics, because modern classic speaks about the life of the furniture and the design, and for me the thinking behind as well. You can see an old typewriter on a polyform. So this was my first client when I came back. When I studied, I did for David. I came back also, I did for David, my first project. Yeah. Yeah, about 5 minutes we will end. Yeah. So this is selling fabrics. Yeah. So he owns the whole building, but I did the rooftop for him. So I designed the outside. So these were extremist furniture. Last time Space were carrying extremist, so I used extremist furniture. One of my first restaurant project at Dempsey, where I exposed the plaster on the wall, bricks. And then Michael Han used to work in Noma. So I've been to the Noma in Copenhagen as well. But the idea was basically very interesting. Design is to hear the sound. And these are all my voluntary work that I'm doing at the moment. Yeah. So in Shanghai, we have the Surrender. So I won this Go Award as well. In interior, I won the Go. Reason why I won the Go is because, I don't know why, but because, I went to Paris, Versailles, to look for all this old wood. You can see the old wood paneling on the wall. I brought it from Paris. You see all this old wood. It's actually from an old house. I bring it back to Shanghai because it's a French colonial district called Henshanlu. So I construct. So the architecture of this hotel is Marabota, and the hotels are by Yabu Pushberg. So the bottom level, all the shops, basically the 3 shops are all designed by me. Yeah. So they were very happy. So I came back. I did for them in Marina Bay Sands. So they actually carry brands like Tom Brown's, Ralph Simmons, and all these. Yeah. So you can see how I display Christian Dada shoes, almost like a Damien Hirst artwork. So from outside, you look at it, it's almost like a museum within the space. That's Christian Dada. Yeah. So from outside, you see this almost like a gallery, the concept that I was trying to do. Smiling is a clinic. I mean, Dr. Rex could not be here as well. He wanted to be here as well, but he's on listening through thing. And then I designed the ladies' shoe shop, Manano Blane. Yeah. So it's very, very interesting, which I will, yeah. And this was during my accident when I designed the Richard Mille watch shop. So you can see the identity of the watch being shown, which I just mentioned. I did the one in Nasim, which is closed now. Uh, so when you drive past, you always stop. And of course, I work with the Richard Mille team because they have a Paris team. We did this at the Hyatt. Yeah. So this is the first movement of the Richard Mille. That's the Armani Casa boutique. So I did the one in Singapore and helped them in KL as well. Yeah. Or the Richard Mille office. That's the polyform showroom that I did for SPACE the last time. Very, very nice project for me. And that was also during my car accident. So this street opposite Garabadi. So it's a very, very tight space, but we use mirror, but all is like telling a story because it's about, for me, it's a history. I'm telling the life of this land. Yeah. So I'll quickly show you the last. Okay, this is Zhang Ziyi one, which maybe you have not seen. So this was the penthouse. I did 2 penthouse for Zhang Ziyi. So this is one of them. Very, very big space. Very, very nice space. This was Wang Li Hong I did about 2 years ago before I do his office. So that's Wang Li Hong. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Okay, and then the last slide I want to show is to end up the project. Okay, so this was also, I think my client is here. It's one of the most exciting house that I'm going to work on probably for the next few years. It's going to be very, very time consuming, but it's something that I will put my heart and soul to do it because of the client trust in me, which is also a friend of mine to today when I did his house. And I'm very happy to work on this. So this is basically a house which I did tell him that I'm going to show a bit of his work. So basically, it's an architecture where I do where the swimming pool is actually cantilever up above the roof. So when you drive in, you see this pool. This is the kind of artwork that's going to be displayed, a collection of like Jeff Koons work and all this, almost like an art museum within the space of a 50,000 square foot house. So this is exactly the kind of architecture, the volume that I create within the space. But this is just only the architecture, but haven't the interior spaces. Very quickly, you can see like the work of Kors coming in, the work of Jeff Koons, all my favorite artists will be all inside, including the Warhol pictures. So the interior space works along the picture. But more important is the pool that cantilevers out from above. So very straightforward. You can see the volume that was created, the form that was actually made in the architecture that I created. Yeah, so you can see, sorry, this is very quickly, this is a project, as I say, it's no longer, it's very important now, not about the homes that I do, not about who I do or who my client is not important. For me, very, very important is about the work that I do now. These are charitable work. These are, I go down to Cambodia, Siam, because this is a hospital that I'm designing for the poor. I need to apply. I need to apply a visa. There's only 3 people who does not need a visa. It's one of the actress. I can't remember her name. There are a few people who do not, but when I go through, I need to apply visa. But anyway, it was a very, I went there because it's very interesting. The land of Cambodia, it's not built up, it's very raw, it's very dead. So what I designed was I designed this, almost like a church, a chapel, because the bishop looked for me. So you can see how the volume that I create is almost like a stacked block within the space and all connecting, where it's all about a journey through life. And this, you can be staying in this church, not just a church you go there and pray, but you can stay for vacation. You're not vacation, but you can stay there for 2 weeks, but you go through this process of being with God and going through the spaces and seeing the light and understanding and how the green volume within the space. So you can see moving through the space, this is how you walk through the spaces. So the next slide is about, you going in a space is all about material that is very, very because they are poor, these are unfinished. So it's all about a light filtering the space, letting the green to grow, not even through a landscaper, but green that grows very naturally, not through a landscape architect, but someone who just put plants and start to understand that plants are very natural thing, that things starts to grow and life grows within itself. So this is basically a very important project for me in a way. It's about, more important than the celebrity homes. These are more meaningful to me in a way. Yeah. So this is actually, sorry, back to the house very quickly. This is just now the house that I told you will take me a few years, but this is the entrance driving in. This is the drop-off point where your car parking, but you can see the reflection within the space. It just transforms the whole volume of the space of an entrance so that it becomes what is, it's no longer a typical house that we see. So you can see the volume that was tested out, the pool above, and this is how it looks like with the pixelated glass, with the Jeffcoon sculpture. You can see the reflection that I was trying to cover in the space with the staircase. Sorry, that's Portfolio Magazine. Uh, yeah, and let me see what, yeah. Sorry, there was few more slides for this project, but I don't know where it was missing. It was very interesting ideas. Yep, okay, just found it, the last few slides. Yeah. Yep, so this is just the few slides that so this is the interior space of the corridor space that I'm creating for it. When you walk through a corridor, even though it's a rectangular space, but what you see is you see this volume within the space. And this is the next stage of my interior design process that I'm going through, because I started to use reflective ceiling, and I'm also glad that I saw some designers, they also using it, but to me, it doesn't matter because now I'm seeing, I'm seeing myself as going into the next stage, no longer still reflection, but in terms of more of volumetric configuration, more volumetric intervention. Yeah. I still have a few more of this slide, but it apparently went missing. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay, if nothing, I want to thank everyone for spending your 1 hour to just listen my nonsense talking. Yeah, but anyway, thank you so much. I want to thank Mark Ree for coming and all my clients, Alfred, and, all the magazines. Oh, the flowers. Thank you. Thank you. Not so nice, the flower. It's okay. Sorry. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'm going down to my exhibition booth. So if you want to, I don't know, if you are nothing to ask, but I'll just be there. So if you want to see anything, I can just talk to you. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. Spend time.